Okay, hold on. I think I see what's happening. Okay, take two. I'm so sorry. Well, I guess I wasn't live, so you guys don't know, but I was talking away and introducing the podcast and uh, getting ready to complain about my horrible headache today. And Jack was telling me, "We're not live. We're not. I don't. We're not live."
Well, I
So
mean,
anyway,
like I said, there's always a lag. It's
right?
never, exactly. But I always
Yeah,
monitor now because I got bit, if you remember, numerous times way back. So I'm
yeah,
always very cautious now about the live stream, especially starting and all that stuff. Anyway, I was thinking that.
yeah. I'm not sure if I've done that before. Maybe I have, but uh, anyway. So
Well, when you have multiple screens going, sometimes you push the live and then push it again to start, and you're off to
mhm,
do something else and not really paying attention. I get it.
yep, yep, for sure. And my whining and complaining. I just woke up with a really nasty, nasty headache. So anyway, um, I didn't really get prepared as well today as I would like to have. So I apologize to everyone. But as I said my first go round when nobody was here or I wasn't live, welcome to Inside the Wrongful Conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw, episode 15. Um, Tonight we're going to begin with a new accuser or the next accuser in Brian Bates's timeline, the way he's laid out his podcast. So that's we're going to um, we're going to basically, and it's a. I said to all the guests on the panel, Kay and everybody here, that I really expected this to go rather quickly, based on tonight's episode, of course, the first one, and then coming into the going into the transcripts. I mentioned that this is gonna we'll be able to read preliminary and trial in one night and have that out of the way and done. But I learned as I was kind of researching the transcripts that there's actually more to her, not more to her story, but her her testimony kind of gets dragged out quite a bit, and that's based on from what I remember seeing from Scott Adams' cross examination, which is great because we need great cross examination, and so and then I hadn't even thought about the detective in this particular accuser's case is Kim Davis, so we definitely want to read uh, her trial testimony on Florene Mathis's case. So that I think it's going to be just a little bit more than what I expected, but we're kind of coming down to 3 episodes per accuser regardless. So what's going to happen though after this one, after we finish with Florene Mathis, we're going to go into Tabitha Barnes. Tabitha Barnes' accusations are the next in line, and her accusations are wacky, crazy, extremely twisted and convoluted, all the things, all the words you can think of. And so hers is definitely going to take us minimum 3 weeks to get through, because she makes accusations of 3 separate encounters with Officer Holtzclaw. And her trial testimony, she's the one, if you know anything about the case or heard rumors or anything about the trial, she's one who shows up Tabitha high to court and high on PCP, and she's very contentious with Scott Adams during cross-examination. And so, you know, it's definitely going to be very, very interesting to see, you know, listen to all of her stuff and to read her, especially to read her trial testimony. So anyway, that's just in preparation coming up for what we have. I think this actually is ready. So that's just in preparation. So if you kind of want to get a head start for Tabitha Barnes in a few weeks, maybe go listen to that podcast for her episode. Again, it's going to only help you to understand when we get to that. Okay, I've rambled on too long. I want to say a quick hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. And let's see, I think I was able to get most everybody highlighted. You're so sweet, Rhonda. You're amazing. Thank you. I love you too. Tony from the Foul Play chat says, "Hi, never knew DH was wrongfully convicted until I got involved with Foul Play podcast. It's a damn shame what happened to him." Yes, Tony, absolutely. Everybody here on this panel's opinion is that he was wrongfully convicted. And so that's what I do on my channel. I am part of Foul Play, of course. That's where I cut my teeth, so to speak. But yes, when I learned about Daniel's case via Jack, actually, I was hooked. Like, I was incensed at what I believed to be, you know, horrible accusations against him. And so I started researching, and through some research and a few other people helping, I was able to connect with Kay. Katie did it, who's on the panel. And Kay's known about everything there is to know. I shouldn't say that. That might make her uncomfortable, but she's been researching Daniel's case for over 7 years. So when I was able to get in touch with her, things really started taking off then at that point. And so now we're just working on growing the channel and getting the information out there about Daniel's case and wrongful conviction. So thank you, Tony, for being here and checking it out. And Justine J, hello to you. And great to see you here as well. And I believe it was Justine who gifted a membership last week to somebody in the chat. And I believe it was Jazz Naz Gaming, who's in the Foul Play team, who's also an amazing supporter of Stephen and Brendan, of course, and always very supportive of all the other content creators. You know, and he always pops in it whenever he can to, you know, remind everybody to give a thumbs up and a like and a comment or something. So thank you, Justine, if that was you. Cherie, do you remember? I think it was Justine.
Rings a bell, yeah, that it was her.
So thank you so much for that, Justine. That's really kind. Okay, I think I did manage to get some of the video that I wanted to do. I did manage to get some of it thrown together. So we're going to kind of play that. I really like to let Brian Bates do his own explanations. Before I get started, real quick though, is there anyone on the panel who has any comments or anything they would like to share before we get started? Cherie?
No, I'm good. Hi, everybody.
Ready to roll.
All right.
I want to talk about me.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Hello, everyone.
Okay. And it looks like Sticks Bass came in to the chat. So, well, we wonder that we're working on it, Sticks Bass. So we're doing everything we can. So I think I'm ready to start this if it's the correct one. So let's see what we came up with.
In the last few months. You'll recall it was Welcome back to Bates Investigates, Season 1, Episode 10. As a member of Daniel Holtzclaw's jury trial criminal defense team, I am presenting this serialized podcast from the perspective of the prosecution, but with the scrutiny of the defense. In the investigative timeline, it's August 13th, 2014, and Detective Rocky Gregory is poring over a stack of papers detailing everyone Officer Daniel Holtzclaw had run through the police department's databases in the last few months. You'll recall it was in Episode 9 that accuser Sherry Ellis's name stood out because she had been run through the Varuna databases numerous times over the course of 3 shifts. On this morning, another name stands out. Just a quick side note, because this person ends up having very little significance to this case, I'm only going to refer to her as Shannon, which is not her real name. According to the printouts, Holtzclaw ran Shannon's name multiple times. Detective Gregory utilized the same law enforcement databases to obtain a telephone number and personal identifying information for Shannon and gave her a call. The following information comes directly from Detective Gregory's official investigative police report. The first thing that stood out to me when I read this report was that the telephone call with Shannon was allegedly not audio recorded. Yet, when Ellis was identified as a possible victim of Daniel Holtzclaw's because of the same suspicious name inquiries, her initial telephone contact was audio recorded. Additionally, according to Detective Gregory's report, he started the telephone conversation with Shannon by stating, quote, "I introduced myself and I asked Shannon if she had ever had any problems with an officer," end quote. You'll recall that when Sherry Ellis was contacted, she was told that police had a tip that she had been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. A statement so inappropriate that even she denied it at trial. Both women were flagged because they had been queried by Holtzclaw multiple times, yet only one was recorded, and that same woman was the only one told up front that police believed she was the victim of a sexual assault by a police officer. The only difference I could find is the fact that 39-year-old Ellis is a black female with a criminal history who resided on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, while Shannon, the one who wasn't recorded and wasn't told they thought she had been sexually assaulted, was a 23-year-old white female professional bikini fitness model who resided in Edmond, an upscale suburb of Oklahoma City. Regardless, Shannon responded to Detective Gregory's vague question with, quote, "She said she really hadn't, but her friend Daniel Holtzclaw is in trouble for supposedly messing with girls," end quote. She went on to say that she didn't know any details about the allegations, but that she met Holtzclaw because they were both on the same bodybuilding team at a gym in northwest Oklahoma City. Shannon explained to Detective Gregory that she dated Holtzclaw in January and February of 2014. She said it was a physical relationship and that she considered Holtzclaw's sex drive to be pretty normal and that they had sex about every other day. Shannon was specifically asked if they used condoms or if Holtzclaw ever asked for anything unusual during sex or made her uncomfortable. She replied that they did not use condoms and that she never had any issues with Holtzclaw. Shannon went on to state that she has no problem with Holtzclaw and that they still compete on the same bodybuilding team. However, when asked, Shannon did verify that she has never had any contact with Holtzclaw as a police officer and that he had no official purpose to run her information through the police department's databases. Shannon ended the call by giving the name of another female fitness model on their team that had had a longer dating relationship with Holtzclaw. I couldn't find any information that Detective Gregory or Davis contacted that individual. I'm not going to dwell on this because its significance is very debatable, but a handful of Holtzclaw's past girlfriends were contacted during this investigation, and Holtzclaw definitely had a type. All were extremely attractive, very into working out, and took that passion to a higher level by either competing and/or working as fitness models. Holtzclaw also dated women of different ethnicities. When interviewed by investigators, none had anything negative to say about him. Regardless, while Detective Gregory was seeking out bikini models to interview, Detective Kim Davis began her day and her next investigative report with the same opening line she would use time and time again. Quote, Lieutenant Musney gave me a list of several females that he wanted contacted because they could be possible victims of Officer Holtzclaw. When he gave me the list, we had still not found a match to the unidentified female DNA found on Officer Holtzclaw's pants. End quote. One of the names on that list was 53-year-old Florene Mathis. When Detective Davis searched the police database, she learned that Mathis was currently being held in the Oklahoma County Jail on a charge of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Detective Davis and Homan drove to the Oklahoma County Jail, had Florene Mathis pulled from her cell, and then escorted to an interview room. This original interview is about 25 minutes long. The audio is fairly poor, and Mathis's answers are often not audible.
Well, if we need one, we'll get one.
Yeah.
What's your reading? Oh, they missed it. Is it good? I'm Detective Davis, Kim Davis, my partner, Detective Holman. How come you're in here? Just out of curiosity.
For assault and battery with dangerous weapon.
Oh, did you kick somebody's ass? Okay, we're not here about that. We're not working that case or anything. We received it, we work in sex crimes, okay? And we received a tip, we're in the middle of an investigation, and during that investigation, a tip came across that you may have been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. Get a chair. Do you want a Kleenex?
I don't even remember what day it was.
Doesn't matter. All she said so far is she didn't remember what day it was. We'd like to talk to you about that. And we'll take as much time as you need. I'm gonna take some notes if you don't care. Do you remember, can I ask some questions? Are you ready? Do you remember what month it was?
No.
Okay. Did you ever tell anybody? Okay. Can you tell me I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and I'm not judging or anything. Were you on drugs that day? Okay. That's fine. What were you using that day?
Crack.
Okay.
And I've been drinking. That's all I can.
Drinking.
What's that town?
Do you remember, were you driving or were you walking? How did you come in contact with him?
I was walking.
Do you remember what street you were walking on?
No, I had just left 16th and Jordan.
Okay. And where did you get stopped?
17th or 18th in Cape over. It was close to a park.
Do you know where that comes? Okay. I don't know the east side very good, but she does, so I'm gonna be 18th near Kate. What time of day was it?
It was 6 or 7
In the evening? Okay, tell me this and it'll help me. Time of year, was it dark or was it still light?
It was kind of dark.
So that's gonna be before daylight savings time, before the time change, or do you know? What were you wearing to tell me the weather?
I had on, it had just started getting warm.
Okay. So do you remember what you were wearing?
No, I had on some jeans. I had on some black jeans and I can't remember what. I know I had on a tank top with a jacket on.
What kind of jacket? Like a coat or like a sweatshirt type of jacket or something else?
It was one of the flannel hoodies, jackets.
Okay. Tell me a little bit. You tell me, you left 16th and Jordan. Is that where you were smoking and drinking? Okay. And you start walking, were you walking alone?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you got approached. Did he come from behind you, from the side of you, or from directly straight
It
on?
was from behind me.
Okay.
He stopped and asked me if I had ID.
Did he get out of the car to ask you that?
Yes.
And he asked if you had ID.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you?
Yes.
Did you have a purse or did you have it in your
I had it in
pocket?
my pocket.
Okay. Did you give it to him?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what happened next.
He ran a check and I came back clear.
Did he run a check over the radio or over his computer, or do you
I
know?
don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Then what? Now, when he's running you, are you standing outside of the car? Are you sitting
He
in the
had
car?
me sitting on the curb.
Did he get back in the car to run you?
Yes.
Are you on his driver's side or passenger side when you're
Passenger
sitting on the
side.
curb? Okay. Then what happened?
And he started asking me about other girls that was working girls and stuff that was around through that area, if I knew any of them. And
Did he call them working girls?
he said, are there any, he said.
Was he out of
He
the
more or
car?
less pertained it like I was out there working and I told him I wasn't. I was on my way home.
Was he out of the car when he was doing this?
Yes,
Have you ever been a working girl before?
years ago.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I told him I didn't know what he was talking about. It's like there's a lot of people be out walking around.
Okay.
And he said something about with me always being in that area, what was going on and stuff like that with the dope houses and the working girls.
Okay.
Where's he standing or sitting?
He's standing right in front of me.
So you guys are kind of face to face like this while you're having this conversation?
But you're still in the back seat of the patrol car?
No, I was outside of the car, sitting on the curb.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. He's telling you that you should know the area and the working girls and the dope houses.
Yeah. And I told him I didn't know what he was talking about.
Okay.
And then he was like, well, if I had a female officer come search you, would you have anything on you illegal and stuff? And I told him no.
Was that the truth?
Yes.
Okay. I remember him telling me I can get up when I got up. He was trying to help me. I told him I can get up by myself. How was he trying to help?
Reach out to pull my hand to pull me out. I snatched my hand back because I've had surgery on my left hand.
Did he ever touch your left hand?
Yes.
Did it hurt?
Yes.
Did he touch it too hard or just did it hurt because you had surgery?
Because I had surgery.
Okay. So now you're standing. Was this whole conversation before that you were sitting and he was standing? Okay. So now you're both standing and facing each other? Okay.
Only thing else I can remember is him trying to fondle my breast.
How did that happen?
When during the contact did that happen?
After I had stood up.
Are y'all like still in the curb area? Or are you in front of the scout car? Or?
It's right. I'm sitting on the curb and I get up and he's right here leaning up toward this passenger door.
Did he just reach out and fondle, or was he searching you, or did he just reach out and grab you, or? Is that because you were high? Now, when you say you remember him trying to fondle your breast, did he ever touch them? On top of your clothes or underneath your clothes? Do you remember what made him stop?
A car or somebody came out of their house or something.
Did he say anything when he touched your breasts?
No.
Did you say anything?
I just told him to let me go.
What did he say when you told her that?
I just remember walking across the park.
Is that kind of by your house?
Yes, in the opposite direction.
Where do you live?
I was staying on 18th and Everest at the time.
18th and what?
Everest.
Where do you live now?
Nowhere.
You don't have an, have they filed charges on you? Like, where are you going when you get out of here? Are you going to prison?
I don't know.
Okay, but you
I'm
don't,
waiting to go to trial.
hmm?
I'm waiting to go to trial.
Do you, when you get out of here, do you have a sister, a brother, a mom, or a dad?
I
Where,
have a sister.
what's your sister's name?
Megan.
Will you get your mail like there, or what's that address?
Northeast 18th.
Do you have a phone? Does your sister have a phone?
Is that the address you're talking about on 18th and Everest?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's between Everest and Stonewall.
Right, but that's the one that you were talking
Where you
about.
going to? When, did he ever try to touch your vagina or your bottom? Did he ever try to get you to touch him?
I don't remember.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. When you walked across the park, did he just drive away? From that point on to, when did you get arrested and come in here?
On the 8th,
Of what?
July.
Okay. Between the time that he did this and July 8th, have you seen him again? You never saw him again?
How much time had passed, do you think? From the time this happened to when you got picked up and brought in here?
I don't remember. I've been trying to keep it brought down.
Give me a description of him. White male, black male, Indian male, Mexican male.
He may, yeah. He could have been part Hispanic and white.
Okay.
Well, he was real muscular.
Did you notice a name tag? Okay. How tall was he? And you don't have to be perfect, just kind of.
Probably about 5'10".
Okay. How much did he weigh?
Probably about 2 something.
And when you say real muscular, like workout muscular or just a big guy?
Muscular.
Muscular, okay. Did he wear glasses? Did he have facial hair?
No, he didn't have facial hair.
If you saw him again, could you pick him out of, like if I showed you 6 pictures of police officers, would you be able to pick him out? What kind of car was he in?
He was in a black and white.
When he stopped you, did he turn his lights, the overhead lights on or anything?
Yes.
He did? Were they on the whole time y'all were talking?
No.
Did he turn them off when he was running you? Anything else you can think about? What color is his hair?
It's either dark brown or black. And like little slight gray.
Can you think of anything else about him that describes him?
Just the police car was one of the new ones.
And
The new black and whites.
like where it's all black except the letters?
Had you ever seen him before this time?
Yeah, he stopped me before when I was working.
As a prostitute?
No,
At work and what? What do you
I
mean?
was doing make ready on 16th and Georgia.
What's make ready?
It's remodeling.
How long before this contact was that contact?
Back in like, it was around March or April.
Of 2014? Did he run you that time? Did he do anything to you that time? So the time that he touched your breast was after March or April of 2014?
What about anything before that time?
I think it was another time that he had stopped me. Probably December or January. And that was like on 18th.
18th and what?
Right around Fawn Shield. I mean, not Fawn Shield, and Stonewall.
Did he run you that time?
Yeah.
Are all these times are you on foot?
Mm-hmm.
Starting, so is this gonna be the first time you've ever come in contact with him?
Mm-hmm.
So from that time to the last time, was it ever discussed about, hey, I see you around or anything?
Mm-hmm.
And he ran you that time, the first time and the second time and the third time, and you came back clear every time?
Well, one time, the last two times I had warrants and he told me to take care of them. And I was trying to take care of them, paying them a little money at a time.
So the second and third time, and the third time being the time he touched your breast, you had warrants?
Mm-hmm.
What were the warrants for?
They were city warrants, failure to appear and not paying my tickets.
Failure to appear and paying tickets. And he just told you to take care of him?
Yeah.
But only one time he did something to you. You didn't tell anybody?
No.
How come?
I didn't really have anybody to tell.
Why didn't, because this will get asked, how come you didn't tell the police?
I just tried to forget about it.
Okay, and that's fine. Is there anything that you can think of that might be important that I didn't ask you, or any of these times, 1, 2, or 3, did he ever search you and put you in the back of the car?
There was one time he put me in the back of the car, and I think that was the first time he stopped me. Because he had a female to come out and search me.
So the second and third time, he didn't put you in the back of the car? And he didn't search you? Okay.
How old are you?
53.
Is your, let me make sure I got you right here. 11,960.
There's gonna be a lot of questions asked. Because we have to answer some to the district attorney's office. And you're very young looking and you've got a great memory, that's obvious because of all the information that you've given us. Did you give us everything?
Then I got it right now.
That night, would you by yourself?
Yeah.
Were you high?
I've been smoking crack and drinking.
Does it cause you to ever black out though or hallucinate?
No, not to hallucinate, I black out.
We're very sorry for something you've come up against. And we're gonna.
It's embarrassing for us that we have to come ask you these questions and tell you when a police officer did that to you. We're embarrassed because we're police officers. But I don't want you to think that, I mean, a lot of people say brothers in blue. If he's out there doing that, it's not right, it's not appropriate, it's against the law, and we won't put up with it, and we want you to know that we won't put up with it. And I did not bring a card over here. I'm gonna put on a piece of paper my name and her name and our telephone numbers. If you need to call us, you call us collect, and if we see that you call collect, if we're not, then we can come over and talk to you, if you need to talk some more. Do you have any questions? Almost put yours.
Did you have any idea why we were coming to talk to you today?
Do you know anybody else that this, I know you didn't tell anybody, but have you heard out on the street or anything of an officer assaulting women? Haven't heard anybody else say anything about it? Do you have any questions? Something's gonna be done about this. Okay? We're not gonna put up with it. Okay. Good.
That's good. On
You
your back.
take that and just, we didn't put detective or anything on there, so you don't feel like you can't be caught with that, and you can't get in trouble for having that either with the jailers. You follow her, and she'll take you back. Thank you, Florene, appreciate it.
Honestly, at first glance, there's not a lot to this interview. I do, however, want to point out that Detective Davis takes some liberties when she claims in her official investigative report that when she asked Mathis if she was ever sexually assaulted by a police officer, Mathis, quote, immediately dropped her head and started crying, end quote. You can watch the video for yourself. There is zero evidence that Mathis is doing anything other than lowering her head and pausing as she gathers her thoughts. There are no audible sobs, nor shedding or wiping of tears. Regardless, Florene Mathis, who is known to go by numerous aliases, claims that while she was out walking and under the influence of crack cocaine and alcohol, she came into contact with Patrol Officer Daniel Holtzclaw. She claims this was the third time that he had stopped her, and that during one encounter there was also a female officer on scene. For most of the contact in question, Mathis says she was seated on the curb and that Holtzclaw was outside his patrol car, standing next to her. Mathis claims that nothing inappropriate occurred until she went to stand up. At that point, Officer Holtzclaw offered his hand to help her. Mathis said she had previously had surgery on her left hand and that Holtzclaw's grip caused her some pain. So she pulled her hand away and said she could get up on her own. Mathis is fairly vague on what happened next, but generalized that Holtzclaw briefly fondled her breasts on top of her clothes as she got up off the curb. She claims that he stopped because either a car drove by or someone came out of her house. She can't remember which. Mathis said the interaction with Holtzclaw ended about that time and she simply walked away. She stated that since that encounter, she hasn't told anyone and simply was trying to put it behind her. While some may be tempted to dismiss this incident as nothing more than a she said, he said, there are a handful of details worth mentioning that, in my opinion, should have caused Detectives Davis and Homan concern as to the truthfulness of Florene Mathis. So let's take a closer look at her allegations. For starters, Mathis says she has had contact with Holtzclaw on 3 separate occasions. The first contact was allegedly in December of 2013 or January of 2014, near Northeast 18th and Stonewall. This would have been very near Florene Mathis's sister's home. Mathis gave a detailed account of how Holtzclaw had called a female officer to come to the scene to perform a search upon her. At that point, she said she admitted to the female officer that she had a crack pipe on her and that the officer took the crack pipe and smashed it on the ground. Further investigation by Detective Davis revealed that Mathis was either mistaken or outright lying. While a stop did occur in that area and in that general time frame, Holtzclaw was not the male officer involved. The male officer was identified in court testimony as Officer Jones. More importantly, though, there was no evidence that a female officer was ever involved in that stop. Mathis said her second contact with Holtzclaw was near Northeast 16th and Jordan and was either in March or April of 2014. Detective Davis researched this alleged contact and did verify that Holtzclaw did stop Mathis on March 25th of 2014. The following is the radio traffic from that stop.
Tuesday, March 25, 2014, 16, 51 and 34 seconds.
Unit number and go ahead.
Charlie 45, got one to run all the way through.
25, 2014, 16, 52 and 0 seconds.
I got one to run, goes with my 2 aliases. Last name is going to be Mathis. That's Mary Adam Tom Henry Otis Sam. First name is going to be Florence. That's Frank Lincoln Ocean Robert Edward Nora Charles seconds. Edward. Date of birth is 65 female. Also goes by the last name of Gibson, first name of Lynn.
Can you spell Gibson and Lynn, and is it still the same date of birth?
And 40 seconds.
Same date of birth. Last name Gibson's George Ida Baker, Sam Ocean Nora. First name is Lynn Lincoln Young Nora.
10-4. Charlie 45. She has 2 city IUWs under Mathis, David Henry 1, Paul Sam 3. Clear out to Gibson Lynn.
No, it's 10-4.
This stop occurred near Northeast 15th and Jordan. Mathis did have city warrants for her arrest, but Holtzclaw did not ticket her or did not take her to jail. Mathis claims nothing inappropriate occurred during this stop. As for the third encounter detailed by Mathis, the one involving the sexual assault, well, that one's a bit more complicated. Detective Davis was able to verify that Holtzclaw did indeed come into contact with Mathis on April 14th, 2014 at about 6:30 p.m. The following is the radio traffic from that stop.
45 out on 15th and Jordan, processor. 15th and Jordan. I'm good.
Monday, April 14, 2.
Charlie 45, I got one to run. Last name of Gibson, George Ida Baker, Sam Ocean Nora. First name of Lynn Lincoln Young Nora.
Monday,
other alias name of Florence Mathis, social 440. She's given a date of birth of 11/60, Blackville.
As the two sound bites of police radio traffic point out, despite what the prosecution and the media would like you to believe, patrol car GPS was not necessary to pinpoint the dates and locations of Holtzclaw's encounters. He literally called them in, with no attempt to hide his activities. Holtzclaw's radio traffic was then compared to his patrol car GPS for confirmation. The third encounter, though, the one allegedly involving the groping of Mathis's breasts, does have some significant contradictory details. Mathis said she had left a residence at Northeast 16th and Jordan, where she had been drinking alcohol and smoking crack cocaine all day. She claimed she was on foot, headed to her sister's house, and had made it to either Northeast 17th or Northeast 18th Street and North Kate Avenue. That's when Officer Holtzclaw approached her in his patrol car from behind. Right there is a huge discrepancy, and Detective Davis and Homan know it. According to Holtzclaw's radio traffic and patrol car GPS, Holtzclaw actually stopped Mathis near Northeast 15th and Jordan, or only about a block away from the crack house she said she had just left. That's a huge difference of almost half a mile. Furthermore, Mathis claims that she was headed west, towards her sister's home, which would have only been a couple of blocks from where she claimed she was stopped by Holtzclaw. Yet, she says when the stop was over, and just after Holtzclaw had fondled her breasts, she walked in the opposite direction of her sister's residence to a park that was in the immediate area. She then turned around and headed back to her sister's home. Well, if you bring this all up on a map, and I have one published to this episode's homepage at holtzclawtrial.com, there is no park in the immediate area of the Northeast 15th and North Jordan Avenue stop that we know took place with Officer Holtzclaw. But there is the Riley Leroy Pitts Park on the corners of both Northeast 17th and 18th Streets and North Kate Avenue, and that park is directly in the opposite direction of where she was headed, just as she described. However, GPS records don't show that Holtzclaw ever made a stop in the area she is insisting it happened, on 17th or 18th Street, just off Kate Avenue and next to a park. This is a huge discrepancy. With the misidentification from the first stop, involving an alleged female officer that never actually happened, and now details of the most recent stop that match her description of a location, but not the location where Holtzclaw actually encountered her, this leaves open the very real possibility the event in which she was sexually assaulted actually involved a completely different police officer, if the sexual assault actually ever occurred at all. I feel it's important to point out that Mathis testified during the trial that she estimates she has been arrested some 30 times by different police officers and has a lengthy criminal record that includes time spent in prison. Which brings up another concern I have. Mathis states that Holtzclaw tried to help her up, and he inadvertently hurt her hand and then intentionally fondled her breasts. According to her, she just stood there, too scared to say or do anything. While I'd accept that as the truth from many people, I have my doubts when it comes to Florene Mathis. She may be 53 years old, but she is anything but meek or timid. You'll recall, she was in jail for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon when detectives first met with her. At trial, it was revealed that Mathis has multiple arrests for not only assault and battery utilizing weapons, but also physically assaulting police officers. In fact, Mathis agreed at trial that she has been arrested in 6 or 7 different jurisdictions for felony assault and battery upon a police officer. I can't imagine Mathis would just stand there while Holtzclaw or any other officer fondled her breasts along the side of a neighborhood street and in broad daylight. And what about the timing of the stop she claims resulted in her being fondled? While she does state the time as between 6 and 7 p.m., which matches the time for the Northeast 15th and Jordan stop, she claims that the stop happened while it was, quote, kind of dark out, end quote. Sunset for that date is recorded as 8:02 p.m. She was stopped a full hour and a half before sunset. It would have still been plenty light out during the time we know Holtzclaw stopped her. Unlike Liggins, Morris, and Ellis's allegations, Mathis said that at no time was she placed in the back seat of Holtzclaw's patrol car. Instead, she was seated on the curb near his vehicle. And, just like the Morris and Ellis stops, Holtzclaw spent a significant amount of time inquiring as to what the women may have known about the criminal activities in the area, specifically prostitution and drug trafficking. Also, contrary to popular myth, Mathis didn't have any active warrants, the same as Morris and Liggins. There's something else disturbing that stuck out to me. Mathis clearly told detectives that she took her attacker out of the lineup. But, as we know, Detective Davis refused to show any accusers a photo lineup after Terry Morris failed to pick him out. Detective Davis's investigative notes revealed that she returned to the Oklahoma County Jail the next day. She claims the purpose of that visit was simply to take an oral DNA swab or buccal swab of the inside of Mathis's mouth and to get some basic background information. So, she didn't bother to record the interaction. You probably recall that Detective Gregory used that same excuse when he returned to visit accuser Terry Morris in jail and conveniently neglected to record most of what turned out to be a very incriminating interview. When we get to the trial episodes of this podcast, I'll fill you in on some additional details, including how Mathis conveniently claims the groping occurred on the second encounter with Officer Holtzclaw and not the third, as she stated during this part of the investigation. And one other interesting bit of information. While detectives, prosecutors, and the media all make a huge deal out of the fact Holtzclaw wasn't arresting these women on their insignificant misdemeanor cost warrants, it was revealed that when Mathis testified in court, she had 10 active felony warrants for her arrest, and no law enforcement officers or detectives had shown any interest in taking her into custody leading up to her appearance in court. And there's something else very significant about the Northeast 15th and Jordan location, where Mathis was twice previously stopped by Holtzclaw. It's actually within just a few feet of a suspected crack house that Holtzclaw had been keeping an eye on. And the female occupant of that alleged crack house? Well, she is about to insert herself into this investigation as yet another victim. And Mathis claims she not only knows this accuser, but she smokes crack with this accuser and worked as her housekeeper at the time. Here's a quick recap of the red flags from this episode. Accuser Florene Mathis has misidentified Daniel Holtzclaw as the officer that pulled her over in late 2013 or early 2014. Then, she completely made up details about a female officer being called to the scene. Lastly, during the stop where she says she was groped, she can't remember the date, the month, or really any details of the alleged assault, but clearly states she was on either Northeast 17th or Northeast 18th Street and Kate Avenue, directly across from a park. The problem is, that's nowhere near where Detective Davis knows Daniel Holtzclaw actually stopped her. Yet, once again, Detective Davis justifies her actions with the following quote.
We'll take our time and we'll verify everything the girls say, or we'll verify everything he said. And that's the way the chips are going to fall. And everything the girls said verified and nothing he said did.
Okay, that's it. Thank you to all who were able to hang around and watch that, even though I was late. So there's, as Brian Bates points out, there are just a lot of questions in Florene Mathis's story. I'm curious for anybody in the chat if you want to answer, either here or foul play. Did it look to you in the video? I know it's hard to see, but did it look to you guys like she dropped her head and started crying, or did it look like she just dropped her head and started perhaps thinking of a story, maybe?
I'm going to go with thinking of a story. But I don't know.
Well, I appreciate that. I think sometimes I tend to be pretty biased, and perhaps I don't see what might really be there. So, it's nice for me to hear other opinions or other thoughts as well. And please, you don't have to agree with me. To everybody in chat here and in foul play, you don't have to agree with me that I didn't see any tears. That's just my perception. So if you feel like you did see tears, or if you feel like she was truly crying, then I want to know that too, or I'm interested in knowing that as well. Like I've said many times, I'm quite cynical and, have a very firm idea and opinion.
Well, I think we all kind of hit that at times because of the experiences that we take in. But I try to also, I don't talk about with law enforcement or within the criminal justice system as an overall. I try not to be cynical. I try to be less cynical these days. I try to look at as much as maybe what that side's looking at, but it's really difficult at times when you run across. I use this term loosely, detectives like Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory. I mean, holy shit, man. And I don't take that from one interview or one thing that I've seen as like the rest of us. I take it from the overall. It's like, holy crap, man. Who taught you guys how to act and towards members of the public? You're so damn unprofessional, man. It's awful at times. It's just terrible. So it's really difficult at times not to be jaded. Sorry for the ramble.
Oh, ramble on. The more you guys or any of you ramble, the less I have to. So, or the less I will. Cherie makes a really valid point. Funny how often recording equipment malfunctioned or the investigators forgot to record. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Spot on, Cherie.
Yep. Hey, Liam, it's been a minute since we've seen you. So happy to have you back in the chat again. Liam says maybe it was an alias which was crying and not visible to the camera. Perhaps. Perhaps. That's a good point, Liam.
I love the way that Kim Davis she's so into herself. When Valerie ever chimes in, you notice 3 or 4 times that she chimed in, she never gets an answer to her question before Kim Davis just asks her a whole different question, just like Valerie didn't just ask a question. They're just...
Well, it's all about Kim.
Well, yeah. Obviously.
She wants to talk about herself. She's that personality. It's one that it's just so irritating to me because she's so arrogant, and at the same time, she's so, pardon my language here, and just what I'm going to say. To me, she comes across so stupid and ignorant about how to treat people. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Right. There was a comment from someone early on one of the YouTube videos, someone who went to school with Kim Davis, talking about how she really hadn't changed. She's still just that. And I think he said something like jock hating person, like she has something against athletes, I guess. or she did back then.
Huh.
I
She's
need
a
to find that.
cartoon to me. I
Interesting.
mean, she.
Does anyone Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying she's a cartoon character
No,
to
definitely,
me,
definitely caricature, no doubt about it.
and I can't see her ever being any other way than what she is.
Okay. I remember, Kay, what you're talking about. I think that was in the 2-hour video
Yeah,
of, with Malkin and the detectives, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. I remember Kay's absolutely right. There was at least one person in the comment, I think, and like Kay said, a male. I'm certain it was a male. And
Mhm.
he was a little critical, pretty critical, not a little. He was definitely critical of Kim Davis and what she was like, what he remembered her being like in school. And
So the fact that
wasn't
Daniel was a jock, a football jock, she probably, that colored her opinion of him, possibly.
Maybe people like that treated her poorly in school or something. Who knows?
Yep,
could
that's
be.
not uncommon.
I have never been able to find photographs of Kim Davis when she was much younger. Only photos of when she's been a detective or police officer. Now, I'm not trying to say that you have to look at a person and make a judgment based on the way they look, but like Susan said, she is like a cartoon, like a caricature, and it probably doesn't help that I'm always using screenshots of her making her most bizarre faces, but there are very few times when she ever seems to be making I don't know, not necessarily a normal, but a non-caricatured look on her face. So, yeah, Liam says you can be a good athlete and enjoy sports without being a jock. Absolutely. And Kay, if I'm not mistaken, they talked to well, I believe they had somebody call. I think Giger says that he called Northeastern Michigan, whichever university it was that he went to, and talked to. I know you didn't, Susan. I didn't either. I'm the one that's always posting the goofy pictures of her, so it's fine. But I know that they talked to. Giger claims that they spoke with high school, high school mates, peers, classmates, and whatever, and at college as well. But nobody had anything negative to say, about Daniel ever in any of the reports. And I know that I believe in the 2-hour video interview with Michelle Malkin, they they talk about jocks and stuff like that. And for another frame of reference, Kim Davis has been involved in investigating at least 2 other cases in Oklahoma City where there were convictions, and I believe at least those 2, possibly among others, they were high school or college jocks. And she talks about it, I think, in that interview. I'll have to try to find that sometime and see if I can remember exactly what she says. But she definitely has. We know she has a bias. She's already told us that in the very beginning. So, she believed Janie Liggins immediately when she was telling her story. She believed what she was telling her. And she also says, and I have a screenshot of this somewhere, but she also says that she Oh, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, she as soon as she saw Holtzclaw, as soon as I saw him, I knew what kind of person he was, or I knew that he did it, or something to that effect. But she had a bias, first of all, before she even knew it was Holtzclaw. She had a bias that Janie Liggins was telling the truth, and then, had a bias against Daniel as soon as she saw him, she said. So, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of jocks when I was in high school. There were a lot of jocks, and they were better than I was in the marching band, and so the jocks were absolutely better than us. We were called all kinds of derogatory names being in the marching band. I don't know why, but we were made fun of. We were ridiculed. We were, like I said, the ugly names and stuff like that. And it was. So I know that there's that perception for whatever reason, but for jocks to be kind of arrogant and whatever, but nobody ever defined Daniel in that way except for Kim Davis, to my knowledge, anyway.
With this case, this accuser, like with every single other accuser, there's always something in the interview that should have been a red flag to the detectives. If they had been investigating these different accusers in search of the truth instead of just seeking these people out so that they could pile on, which is what they did. There were so many occasions with every single accuser where they should have said, oh, so a female officer came out and checked her. Well, she completely lied about that. That should be a red flag. Daniel had stopped her the particular time when it was really Officer Jones who had stopped her. I don't know what Officer Jones looks like. Never seen a picture of him. Have we ever had a picture of Jones?
I don't know. I'm going to have to look through those lineup photos and see, but I don't remember if he was put in the lineup photos, perhaps.
I don't remember that name.
I don't either.
Being in there. But once again, nothing, no lie, no anything, no exaggeration, no, complete different officer than the story she's telling. None of that ever made them think, oh, hey, this, she may just be making this up because we approached her in jail and she was probably thinking if she went along with this, she'd get out of jail sooner. When she asked, I think Valerie's first question was, do you have any questions for us? And she was thinking, and I was looking at her face. She's thinking, and I think she's trying to think what she can say that might better her situation. But she never did. She never does. I mean, unlike Sherry Ellis, who, she wasn't incarcerated, but she didn't get out the door of the in-person interview without asking for help with her fines or help postponing the due date of her fines that she was behind on. And many other accusers are the same way. But what's interesting with Florene, she's the only accuser who didn't file a civil rights lawsuit against Daniel. And Bates says that she was listed in the beginning because there were 4 cases because all the different attorneys, came in and tried to gather up as many accusers as they could. So it ended up being 4 civil cases that got filed that were ultimately going to have to be consolidated to go to trial. But immediately, they dropped her from it before anything ever happened. And Brian speculated that perhaps one of the attorneys had added her, hoping that she would come along. And I think that makes sense because none of the petitions, none of the civil rights lawsuit petitions, none of them are right. None of them have facts that you could win anything in court with. These attorneys did not know the facts of the case. It seems like they got their details from Nancy Grace or something. They just completely did not know the case.
Lord.
But it's crazy, man. And I feel like they were answering the interrogatories for the women sometimes too. When we're able
The
to
ones that did get answered properly.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, which one was it that said she didn't even know they'd filed a lawsuit? Sherry, wasn't it?
Was it Sherry or Tabitha? I can't.
I think several of them in their trial testimonies, when Scott Adams asks them, I think several of them have said, no, I didn't know. Adara Gardner's one.
Although she went and met with an attorney on the same day that she was interviewed, Adara did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And Scott Adams will address this address the attorney, hiring an attorney in Mathis's trial testimony as well. So I don't know. Scott Adams, he gets a lot of leeway from the judge. I'm kind of excited to read her trial testimony, not so much because of what she testifies to, but because Scott Adams gets more leeway than I thought he was going to get going into her criminal background, her criminal history. So that's pretty interesting coming up in the trial testimony. Yeah, Mathis, I agree, Kay, that Kim Davis, and Rocky, both of them, and Valerie, they're not trying to find like real, true, honest victims. And when they hear things, and I think I have made a comment, and Cherie asked the question, I made a comment somewhere in the chat earlier that I don't remember exactly where it is, except for revolving around the 3 different times that Mathis was allegedly stopped by Holtzclaw. Kim Davis, you'll have to go through and watch it again if you want to see it. My perception was Kim Davis looked to the side of her over at Valerie, like, wait a minute, that doesn't line up, kind of. That was just my impression of her look. If I can find that sometime in the future, I'll point it out to you guys. But I don't know. Kim Davis looked to me like she's looking at Valerie like, that doesn't match up. That's not what we need her to say, kind of look. Again, that's typical, of course, but I also wanted to point out the very last his podcast here when he plays the clip of Kim Davis saying that, we're going to verify everything the girls say and everything that he says, and, let the chips fall where they may. And then she says, and everything the girls say verified, and everything he said didn't. And then she gives off this little chuckle that I just want to pop off of her mouth. But anyway, she says that, like Daniel's been giving, she gives the impression that Daniel's just telling all these stories about all these different accusers, telling his side, and Daniel only ever spoke to law enforcement the one time, and that was during his interrogation. He never spoke again for her to be able to say that everything the girl says verified and nothing he says and everything he said didn't. That's just not true. And it's, I believe she said that in an interview that was, was on, I don't know, the 2020 show or something, one of the, Chris Hansen's show or whichever one it was. And it really frustrates me because she says that and it gives the impression that he's told 13 different, his side to 13 different accusers, when that's not the case at all. The only one he ever spoke to was Janie Liggins, and then of course briefly Terry Morris. So that's and that's frustrating, and that's another way of sneaking something in that was just not true. And it frustrates me whenever I hear that damn thing that she says. But we can't do anything about that now. I mean, obviously, but say it isn't true because he never did speak about any of the other accusers. So, and I mentioned that I was going to show, I have a Google Earth pulled up of where the actual location is that she kind of, Mathis tries to say is, where she got stopped and fondled, and that was absolutely not the place where she was stopped and fondled by, unless it was Officer Jones who fondled her, because this is the area that she's talking about. Now, over here is Tabitha Barnes. Tabitha Barnes lives in this corner house where this red, whatever it is. That's on the corner of Northeast 15th and Jordan Avenue, runs north and south. And Florene Mathis was stopped on, I think, 2 separate occasions. One was April 14th and the other was March 25th, right about here, where she was stopped by Officer Holtzclaw. But the one that she's saying, Officer Holtzclaw stopped her and assaulted her, is over here. And I have no doubt that she walked from Tabitha's house to this location. This is Kate Street that runs north and south. This is 17th Street, and this is 18th. Here's the part, the Leroy Pitts part that she talks about. And then over here, I believe her sister's house was the corner house. It might have been the second from the corner, but I think it was here. At any rate, she describes that stop by Officer Jones, which was somewhere over here. She describes that encounter, I guess, and then going towards her sister's house and then going back the opposite way towards the park. But that's Officer Jones at that stop, not Officer Holtzclaw. So, again, just more fake, fake. Well, her accusation, first of all, is fake, but or is a lie, but certainly isn't the right location either. So, yeah, makes you wonder. Sticks Bass, screwy case. Who wants to be a cop anymore? Yeah, it seems like it is not as common a thing as it used to be, but then I just wanted to show you quickly. We'll look at these quickly. The places where this is from Florene Mathis's police report. And so I'm showing you the AVL mapping that was done. So this is Tabitha Barnes' house right here on the corner. This is Jordan Avenue. And this was April 14th, the stop that was on April 14th. And I'm not sure, it was at 6:47 p.m. So just a little before 7 that one occurred. And then the next one was, this one was March 25th. And same place, both times she was stopped right here at the corner of Jordan and right by Tabitha's house. And, you know, she's going to admit that she absolutely does know Tabitha Barnes. And that story will get crazy when we get to that, for sure. So anyway, that's kind of a nutshell version. I played most of Bates' podcast, everything that was, pertinent to Florene Mathis anyway. So you can go back and listen to that if you want, either from this video or just listen to Brian Bates' podcast. And also don't forget about Holtzclawtrial.com. If you go to episode 10 in Holtzclawtrial.com and click onto that homepage, Brian Bates is going to give you a lot more information with AVLs and police report and everything else. So you definitely want to check out Holtzclawtrial.com episode 10 and get even more, more in-depth information there that way. I know there was one other thing that I wanted to mention, but it slipped my mind, and I keep forgetting what it was. So I'm sure it'll come up at another point with another accuser. But that's all I really have for tonight. I am going to share with the members only, those of you who are members who have joined. I am going to share, hopefully by this weekend, if I can get it, testimony. I think it was an in-camera, might have been an in-camera testimony by Lieutenant Tim Musney, where he's going to talk about, and if you're not familiar with it yet, or you haven't really heard very much about it yet, this whole thing that's going to go on throughout the trial about quote unquote the list. It becomes a big deal. It actually kind of starts sounding like pointless, but Timothy Musney is going to testify about the list and how it was created. And you can see, when you get to those of you who are members of the channel and you get to see this first, you're going to be able to see how there was definitely that Tim Musney, the lieutenant, sex crimes lieutenant, absolutely targeted only Black females with the demographics that these women all had. And it's interesting when you go back and listen to the beginning of this particular podcast, episode 10, when Brian Bates talks about a former partner, I guess you could say, of Daniel's named, well, it's not her real name, but Shannon. Shannon did not fit the profile that Lieutenant Musney had chosen. In fact, none of Daniel's partners or girlfriends, past or future or anything else, none of them fit that profile that Musney sets up and creates in this list. And I just gosh, it keeps slipping my mind. Anyway, so I'll get that out to you guys. I'm thinking, if not tomorrow, by Saturday. It'll be in the YouTube members only room in Discord. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting, and I think you'll find it. You'll have a lot of questions or whatnot from reading over that testimony. Next week, the preliminary is very, very short. I think it's only 10 pages long, if I'm not mistaken. Very short, and nothing is really learned from it. I'm not even sure if Scott Adams did a cross. If he did, it was very short. So I think instead of reading the preliminary next week, we'll just go right into her trial testimony, and I will just upload the preliminary transcript in her room in Discord, in Florene Mathis's room in Discord, and you can read that at your leisure. Oh, I know what I want to say. The photo lineups. I've been wanting to touch on this for every time it gets mentioned in one of the podcasts or whatever that we do. So those of you who are familiar with the case know that there was only ever one photo lineup done, and that was with Terry Morris. The state calls her Daniel's first accuser. Anyway, there is a photo lineup given that they show to Terry Morris, and she doesn't choose. Daniel's a part of the lineup, and she can't choose. There's two that she thinks that it might have been that assaulted her, but she can't choose which one it is. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Daniel was one, and I think Officer Jeff Dutton was the other one. But I could be mistaken about the second officer. Anyway, then, Kim Davis will say in just about every interview that she does with an accuser, if I showed you, would you be able to pick him out of a lineup? If I showed you 6 pictures, would you be able to? Well, she never does show another photo lineup, and that's a whole other topic of conversation. But if you think about it, it probably wouldn't have been beneficial for Daniel to have these ladies look at a photo lineup, because every single one of them had a legitimate traffic stop or Terry stop, whatever you want to call it, encounter with Daniel. So they probably would have been able to identify him. And that would have been bad. And I think that me and Kay and some others on the panel, I'm not sure, it talked about it a while ago. It really wouldn't have really been beneficial to Daniel's case if these ladies had been shown a lineup, because they probably could have picked Daniel out in a lineup. Maybe not all of them, because, maybe all of them did see, have an encounter with a law enforcement officer who did assault them or whatever. But if they would have seen Daniel, yeah, they'd had an encounter with him. They'd been stopped by him before. And so that wouldn't have been the best thing for Daniel, if the way I think about it, the way I think Kay has thought about it. But that's just my opinion. So I'll let Kay speak to that if she wants to.
No, I agree with you completely. I mean, especially people that he had been in contact with more than once. I just think they would recognize him. I mean, it would be a familiar face. So it's dangerous one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I agree.
All right. That's all that we have for this. And again, please accept my apologies for being so late tonight and for thinking that I pushed the go live button and I didn't. And it was just a little bit of a mess this afternoon.
You weren't the only one that was late. Like I said, I got pulled off into doing something that I really wasn't sure I was doing. So, but anyway,
that's okay.
Hey, I just want everyone to know that I was here on time.
She was here on time. Everybody was on time except for me and Jack.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh, Susan was late too.
Yeah, it was my fault. And Jack, you can be late if you want to because it's not your channel.
I know, but I do the restream, so I like to be, a few minutes early so I get everything set.
Right. I understand. Okay, so next week we'll do the trial transcript of Florene Mathis. It definitely gets a little choppy and a little. Scott Adams really does kind of go at her based on her past criminal history and her aliases and all that. And the judge allows him to get into quite a bit of it, so it's pretty interesting. So you definitely want to check that out. If anybody. Comments from the rest of the panel before we go? Cherie, do you have any comments?
No, but thank you for presenting this. It's a good refresher on her case and all the problems with it.
Of course, that's what we're all here for. Kay, any comments?
Can't think of any.
All righty. And Susan, how about you?
I'll just say I don't believe a word Florene says.
I didn't either. Yeah. To me, it looked like she did a lot of thinking, trying to create a story that would sound not too much detail and information, but just enough to make her a quote-unquote victim. So I agree. Jack, I know you got some stuff to talk about.
Well, I mean, I'm with you and Susan. I don't really believe her either. I do think she was probably doing some thinking on her feet, as it were. Other than that, looking forward to getting the testimony read, preliminary and so forth. And then this weekend, I guess we're on Foul Play. We're back on with reading with the crew on Saturday, and whatever we're going to do for open mic on Sunday, 5 p.m. Central for both.
I realize it's later in the afternoon, 5 p.m. Central, but Sunday's Easter. But I mean,
okay,
yeah,
probably
have one, but
yeah, I'll have to think about that. I mean, it's really our holiday, so I mean, generally by that time they
yeah,
Easter egg is over.
Yeah, we're just having our big dinner at that afternoon. So, but it doesn't matter if I'm there or not. It's not about me. So it's about the viewers.
Right.
Sure.
I'll think about that one. Good.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me know. I forgot.
Oh, you'll be finished. It takes 5 hours to make the meal and 10 minutes to eat it.
The only thing I'm making is the potato salad.
It's always so frustrating. It's like, this was our 10-minute meal. Okay, people.
Yeah.
Get back on your phones.
Yeah, we do. I get really frustrated at Thanksgiving. That's when the biggest day is for us and for probably most people to cook. And that's exactly what happens on Thanksgiving. But the only thing I'm making for Sunday is a potato salad. So, but anyway, I want to get this last comment in from Sticks Bass. A lot of cops are as mental as anybody. I had a cop go crazy on me because I said a sister shouldn't go out with a guy who'd murder her brother, like he must have had a problem with somebody's bro. Well, I couldn't do a cop's job, that's for sure. I don't have patience or tolerance or compassion. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of different stuff out there with law enforcement, and it's kind of sad for sure. But again, thank you everyone for being here tonight, and until next time, next Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, peace out.